Let me tell you about the law that governs all creation. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything you see in your world, everything you experience, is nothing more than your consciousness pushed out. Your physical reality is merely a shadow, a reflection of your inner state of being. Now imagine for a moment that your mind is like a garden. Every thought you think, every assumption you hold, every feeling you nurture is a seed planted in this garden. And just as surely as a seed grows into its corresponding plant, your thoughts and feelings grow into your experiences. You see, most people are walking around believing that their thoughts are simply reactions to their reality. But here's the profound truth. Your thoughts are not reactions to your world. They are the very cause of your world. Your consciousness is not a passive observer. It is the active creator. Let me share with you what I call the law of assumption. This law states that if you assume you are what you want to be and continue in that assumption, it must become your reality. It's not hoping, it's not wishing, it's not even believing, it's knowing. It's assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Here's what separates those who manifest their desires from those who don't. Those who succeed live from the end. They don't wait for circumstances to change to feel what they want to feel. They feel it first, knowing that the feeling precedes the manifestation. You know what's fascinating about your imagination? It's not a fantasy factory creating idle daydreams. Your imagination is the very workshop in which all reality is fashioned. But most people use their imagination to rehearse their fears instead of rehearsing their desires. Let me tell you about the power of your inner conversations. Every moment of every day, you're having conversations in your mind. These conversations are not mere mental chatter. They are the blueprint of your future experiences. But most people let their inner conversations be dictated by their current circumstances, rather than their desired reality. Now, some of you might be thinking, but how can my consciousness create reality? Let me share with you this eternal truth. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, every person, every circumstance, every event, is simply consciousness manifested. Let me share with you the profound truth about states of consciousness. You see, every moment of your life, you're occupying a state. Every state you occupy must bear its fruit in your physical world. But most people occupy states unconsciously, never realizing they can choose their state at will. Your entire world is nothing more than your consciousness projected outward. When you understand this, you'll realize that to change your world, you need only change your consciousness. But here's the secret that few understand. You must persist in the new state until it feels natural. Now let me tell you about what I call living in the end. When you truly desire something, you must assume the feeling of already having it. You must sleep in the assumption that your desire is already a fact. Your physical senses may deny it, but you must remain faithful to your assumption. You see, most people make the mistake of trying to change things on the outside first. But here's the profound truth. The outside is dead. It has no life of its own. All life, all animation, all power flows from within. Your consciousness is the only living reality. Let me share with you the power of revision. Every night before you sleep, you have the power to revise your day. You can take any event that did go as you desired and in your imagination replay exactly as you wish it had gone. This is not mere fantasy. This is actually changing the past in your consciousness, which must then change your future. Here's what most people don't understand about manifestation. It's not about forcing changes in the external world. It's about changing your conception of yourself. When you change your self-concept, the world must reshape itself to match your new assumption. You know what's fascinating about your desires? They are God's way of telling you what you can have. The mere fact that you can desire something means it's possible in your world. But you must claim it in consciousness first. Let me tell you about the law of identical harvest. Whatever you plant in consciousness will grow into your reality. If you plant doubt, you harvest uncertainty. If you plant the assumption of success, you must harvest success. It's a law as exact as mathematics. Now, some of you might be wondering about time. How long would it take? But time is an illusion of the physical world. In consciousness, the thing is done the moment you assume it is done. The time it takes to appear in your physical world is determined by your conviction in its reality. You see, There's a secret about your brain that most people never discover. It cannot tell the difference between what you're vividly imagining and what you're actually experiencing. When you imagine with feeling, you're literally rewiring your brain to accept your desire as reality. Let me share with you the power of feeling. Feeling is the secret. It's not enough to just visualize or affirm. You must feel the reality of desire now. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the gratitude of having what you desire. Feel it so deeply that your whole being vibrates with the certainty of it. Here's what's profound about your imagination. It's not creating something new. It's selecting and bringing forth something that already exists in infinite possibility. But you must learn to use your imagination consciously, purposefully. Let me reveal to you the profound secret about your own magnificent mind. Your brain, you see, is not merely recording reality, it is creating reality. Every single thought you entertain, every feeling you embrace is literally reshaping the neural pathways in your brain. But most people never realize they are the sculptors of their own brain structure. Now understand this fundamental truth. When you fall asleep at night, your subconscious mind accepts as true the last impressions you held in consciousness. This is why I tell you never to sleep feeling worried or fearful. Instead, fall asleep in the absolute assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. You see, there's something miraculous about the state akin to sleep, the state between waking and sleeping. In this drowsy state, your conscious mind's resistance is lowered, and your subconscious becomes incredibly receptive to new impressions. This is the perfect state for impressing your desires upon your subconscious mind. Let me share with you what I call mental diet. Just as you carefully choose what you feed your physical body, you must be even more selective about what you feed your mind. Every mental conversation, every inner assumption is food for your consciousness. But most people mentally feast on the very things they wish to eliminate from their lives. Here's something profound about your imagination. It speaks in the language of feeling. When you imagine something, feel it as though it were happening now. Feel the texture, the weight, the temperature. Feel the emotional satisfaction of having your desire fulfilled. Your brain responds to this feeling as though it were actually happening. You know what's fascinating about consciousness? It operates at multiple levels simultaneously. Your conscious mind might doubt. But if you can get your subconscious to accept an idea, it must become your reality. This is why feeling is so crucial. Feeling bypasses the conscious mind's doubts. Let me tell you about the power of your self-talk. Every time you say I am, you're making a claim on existence. You're literally programming your subconscious mind. But most people habitually make negative I am statements, never realizing they're creating those very conditions they wish to avoid. Now, some might ask, but what about external circumstances? Remember this eternal truth: circumstances don't matter. Only state of consciousness matters. When you change your state of consciousness, circumstances must change to match your new state. You see, there's something remarkable about your brain's reticular activating system. Once you impress upon it what you want, it begins to notice opportunities and possibilities that were always there but previously invisible to you. But you must first impress it with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Let me share with you the power of persistent assumption. When you assume something is true and persist in that assumption despite all evidence to the contrary, your brain begins to create neural pathways that support that assumption. This is literally rewiring your brain for success. Here's what's profound about your mental conversations. They are literally instructions to your subconscious mind. Every time you imagine a conversation, you're programming your brain. Well, most people mentally rehearse conversations of failure and limitation instead of success and abundance. Let me share with you something profound about the nature of your consciousness. Your entire world, every experience, every relationship, every circumstance is simply your consciousness pushed out into manifestation. When you truly grasp this, you'll understand why changing your consciousness is the only way to permanently change anything in your world. Now understand this. Your brain is infinitely malleable. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, but I tell you it is the physical expression of a spiritual law. Every time you assume a new state of consciousness, you are literally creating new neural pathways. Your brain physically restructures itself to match your dominant mental state. You see, most people wait for something to happen before they change their mental state. But here's the profound truth. This is the exact opposite of how the law works. You must first occupy the state of consciousness that corresponds to your desire. Your physical reality has no choice but to reshape itself to match your inner state. Let me tell you about what I call living from the end. When you thoroughly understand this, you'll never again worry about the how of manifestation. You see, the end is where we begin. Occupy the state of consciousness of already having what you desire. Feel it as real now. Your brain will then orchestrate the means. Here's something fascinating about your subconscious mind. It accepts as true whatever you feel to be true. It doesn't distinguish between what you're vividly imagining and what you're actually experiencing. This is why feeling is the secret. Feel the reality of your desire now, and your subconscious must find ways to bring it into physical expression. You know what's remarkable about your mental conversations. They are the thread from which the fabric of your reality is woven. Every internal dialogue, every imagined conversation is creating neural patterns in your brain. But most people allow their mental conversations to be dominated by doubt, worry, and limitation. Let me share with you the power of revision. When you revise an event in your imagination, you're not merely creating a pleasant fantasy. You are literally rewiring your brain's interpretation of that event. The revised version becomes your new reality, because consciousness is the only reality. Now, some might say, but what about facts? Remember this, facts are only the fruit of past assumptions. Change your assumptions, and you change the facts. Your brain is constantly filtering reality based on your assumptions. Change your assumptions, and you change what your brain perceives as fact. You see, there's something profound about your attention. Whatever you place your attention on grows in your consciousness. This is why I tell you to withdraw your attention from unwanted conditions. Give all your attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Let me tell you about the law of identical harvest. Your brain will always manifest what you plant in consciousness. If you plant the seed of assumption that you are wealthy, successful, loved, while feeling the reality of it, your brain must find ways to manifest these conditions. Let me reveal to you something extraordinary about the power of your persistent imagination. Your imagination, sustained with feeling, is the very substance from which your future is molded. When you persist in imagining and feeling your desire as already fulfilled, you are literally programming your brain to manifest that reality. Now, understand this crucial truth. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what you're vividly imagining and what you're physically experiencing. When you imagine with feeling, you create the same neural patterns that would be created if you were actually experiencing your desire. This is why imagination is the real and external world the shadow. You see, most people use their imagination unconsciously, letting it run wild with fears and worries. But here's the profound truth. Your imagination is God's gift to you. It is the creative power through which you can consciously design your life. Every time you imagine something vividly, you're literally rewiring your brain's circuitry. Let me share with you what I call the sleeping technique. As you lay in bed at night, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Feel the naturalness of having what you desire. Your subconscious mind is most receptive in these drowsy moments, and whatever you impress upon it then must manifest in your world. Here's something remarkable about your consciousness. It operates on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Your conscious mind might doubt, but if you can impress your desire upon your subconscious through feeling, doubt becomes irrelevant. Your subconscious will work tirelessly to manifest what you've impressed upon it. You know what's fascinating about your brain's reticular activating system? Once you program it through conscious imagination and feeling, it begins to notice opportunities and possibilities that were always there but previously invisible to you. But you must first impress it with the feeling of the end result. Let me tell you about the power of your self-concept. Every thought you think about yourself, every assumption you hold about who you are, is literally shaping your brain's neural pathways. But most people never realize they can consciously choose and revise their self-concept. Now, some might ask about time. Remember this, in consciousness, there is no time. The moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the seed is planted. Your brain begins its magnificent work of bringing your assumption into physical reality. You see, there's something profound about feeling. Feeling is the secret. When you generate the feeling of having what you desire, you activate the same neural networks that would be activated if you actually had it. Your brain then begins to create the circumstances that match this neural pattern. Let me reveal to you a profound secret about the architecture of your mind. Your consciousness is not confined to your physical brain. It is infinite, boundless, and all-powerful. Yet your brain is the magnificent instrument through which this infinite consciousness expresses itself in your physical experience. Now, understand this fundamental principle. Every thought you think, every feeling you entertain is creating pathways in your brain. These neural pathways become the channels through which your future experiences must flow. But most people create these pathways unconsciously, never realizing they can consciously design them. You see, when you truly understand that your brain is infinitely malleable, you'll realize that no state is permanent, unlike it's so through your persistent assumption. Your current circumstances, no matter how seemingly fixed, are only the reflection of past patterns of thought. Change the pattern, and you change the reflection. Let me share with you what I call the divine moment. This moment right now is the only time when you can impress new patterns upon your brain. The past exists only in memory, the future only in imagination. But in this divine moment, you have the power to rewrite your entire life story. Here's something extraordinary about your subconscious mind. It cannot distinguish between what you're vividly imagining and what you're physically experiencing. When you imagine with feeling, you create the same neural patterns that would be created by the actual experience. This is why imagination is the very substance of creation. You know what's fascinating about consciousness? It operates on the principle of assumption. Whatever you assume to be true, your brain will work tirelessly to prove right. But most people make their assumptions based on past experience rather than desired experience. Let me tell you about the power of your inner conversations. Every word you speak in your mind is literally programming your brain. These mental conversations are not mere idle chatter. They are the blueprints from which your brain constructs your future experiences. Now, some might wonder about persistent negative thoughts. Remember this, a thought only has power over you if you give it the power of your attention and feeling. You can choose in any moment to withdraw your attention from unwanted thoughts and place it fully on the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You see, there's something profound about the law of identical harvest. Whatever you plant in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind through feeling and persistent assumption must grow into your physical reality. But you must water it with attention and nurture it with conviction. Let me share with you the power of revision. When you revise an event in your imagination, feeling it as you wish it had happened, you're not merely creating a pleasant fantasy. You are literally rewiring your brain's interpretation of that event, which must then change your future. Let me reveal to you the deepest truth about consciousness and creation. Your entire universe exists within your own consciousness. Everything you perceive, everything you experience, is simply consciousness expressing itself in form. When you truly grasp this, you'll understand why changing your consciousness is the master key to changing your entire world. Now, understand this vital principle. Your brain is not merely recording reality, it is creating reality based on your dominant mental states. Every assumption you hold, every feeling you nurture, every state you occupy is literally reshaping your neural architecture. But most people never realize they are the architects of their own brain structure. You see, there's something profound about what I call the law of reversed effort. The harder you try to make something happen through physical effort alone, the more you reinforce the consciousness of lack. Instead, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and your brain will naturally orchestrate its manifestation. Let me share with you what I call the sadbath. This is the state where you completely rest in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. When you enter this state, you cease all effort, because in consciousness, the thing is already done. Your brain then works effortlessly to bring it into manifestation. Here's something remarkable about your attention. Whatever you place your attention on grows in your consciousness. This is not metaphysical speculation. This is literal brain function. Your attention strengthens neural pathways. But most people habitually focus their attention on what they don't want instead of what they do want. You know what's fascinating about your subconscious mind? It takes everything personally. When you say they are, he is the odds. Your subconscious interprets it as I am. This is why you must be extremely careful about how you think and speak about others. You are literally programming your own subconscious. Let me tell you about the power of your nightly review. The moments before sleep are crucial because your subconscious is most receptive then. Whatever you impress upon your mind as you drift off to sleep will work all night long to reshape your brain's neural patterns. Now, some might ask about persistence. Remember this, persistence is not about forcing or struggling. It's about maintaining the feeling of your wish fulfilled regardless of appearances. Your physical senses may deny it, but you must remain faithful to your assumption. Now understand this fundamental truth about your brain's function. It's constantly seeking evidence to support your dominant beliefs and assumptions. This is not just psychology. This is the very mechanism through which consciousness creates reality. Your brain will literally filter reality to match your assumptions. You see, there's something extraordinary about what I call controlled imagination. When you consciously direct your imagination with feeling, you're not just daydreaming. You're actually programming your brain's neural networks. These networks then become the channels through which your future must flow. Let me tell you about the power of your first-person perspective. When you imagine from the first-person view, feeling and experiencing your desire is already fulfilled, you create far more powerful neural patterns than if you merely observe from the outside. Your brain responds as though it's happening now. Here's something fascinating about your consciousness. It operates in states. Each state has its own complete set of memories, beliefs, and expectations. When you enter a new state, you literally access a new set of neural pathways. But most people remain stuck in unwanted states, never realizing they can choose a new state at will. You know what's remarkable about your self-talk? Every I am statement you make is literally an instruction to your subconscious mind. Your brain doesn't question these statements. It simply works to make them true. But most people unconsciously make limiting I am statements all day long. Let me share with you the power of feeling. Feeling is the secret because feeling creates the neural patterns that attract corresponding experiences. When you generate the feeling of having what you desire, you're not just creating a pleasant emotion. You're literally rewiring your brain for success. Now, some might wonder about the role of action. Remember this, action does not create, it only expresses. True creation happens in consciousness first. When you occupy the state of having your desire fulfilled, appropriate action flows naturally and effortlessly. You see, there's something profound about what I call mental diet. Just as your physical body is built from the food you eat, your experience is built from the mental food you consume. Every thought, every assumption, every inner conversation is either nourishing or poisoning your future. Let me tell you about the law of reversibility. Just as physical action produces feeling, feeling can produce physical action. By deliberately assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you set in motion the physical actions that will bring it into manifestation. My dear wonderful friends, tonight we will explore one of the most powerful yet misunderstood principles in the art of manifestation, the divine law of silence and selective association. Many of you have come to me asking, Neville, why do my manifestations sometimes fail? Or why do things seem to fall apart just when they're about to succeed? Tonight I will share with you a profound truth that will transform your understanding of the law. Let me begin by telling you why silence is not merely the absence of speech, but the very foundation of your creative power. In Scripture we read, "Be still and know that I am God." This stillness, this divine silence, is not a mere suggestion. It is the very secret of creation itself. Consider how God created the world. Did he announce his intentions to anyone? Did he seek validation or approval? No, my dear friends. In the depths of silence, in the quiet of his own being, he spoke the words, "Let there be," and it was done. This is your pattern. This is your blueprint. I remember who came to me in New York. She had been trying to manifest a specific position in her company, a position that seemed impossible to obtain given her current status. She had told everyone about her desire, seeking advice, validation, and support. For months, nothing happened. Then she heard this principle of silence and everything changed. She did something remarkable. She cut off all discussion of her desire. She stopped seeking opinions, stopped announcing her intentions, and most importantly, she went into what I call the sacred silence. Within 3 weeks, not only was she offered the position she desired, but she was offered an even better one she hadn't even imagined possible. You see, when you speak of your desires to others, you are diffusing your creative power. Every time you discuss your intentions, you are releasing the pressure of the creative force that should be building within you. It's like puncturing a balloon. Before it's fully inflated, the air escapes, and the balloon never reaches its intended form. Let me share with you what I call the law of sacred silence. This law states that every desire has its own gestation period, just as every seed has its own time of growth. When you plant a seed in the ground, do you dig it up every day to check its progress? Do you tell everyone about the seed you've planted and ask their opinion on whether it will grow? Of course not. You plant it in the silence of the earth and let it grow undisturbed. Your desires are spiritual seeds, and your consciousness is the soil in which they grow. Every time you speak of your desires to others, you are essentially digging up your seed to show it to the world. How can it grow if you don't give it the silence it needs to take root? But tonight, I want to take you deeper than you've ever gone before into understanding why cutting all contacts is equally crucial to your manifestation. This is not about isolation, it's about insulation. You must insulate your consciousness from the doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs of others. Consider the story of Noah. Before the flood came, he was instructed to enter the ark and seal it. This is not a historical account, but a psychological drama playing out in consciousness. The ark represents your consciousness, and sealing it represents cutting off contact with all that would disturb your assumption of the wish fulfilled. Many of you maintain relationships and connections that constantly pull you back into old states of consciousness. Try to rise to a new level of being while staying connected to those who know you as you were, not as you desire to be. This is like trying to fly while keeping your feet chained to the ground. Let me tell you about a student of mine who understood this principle perfectly. He desired to move from poverty to wealth, but he realized that his daily associations were keeping him anchored in the consciousness of lack. His friends, though well-meaning, constantly spoke of limitations, of how difficult it was to make money, of how the economy was against them. He made a bold decision. He temporarily cut all contacts that reinforced the old state of poverty consciousness. He didn't do this unkindly or abruptly, but he quietly withdrew from circles that kept him tied to the old state. Instead of spending evenings discussing lack with his usual companions, he went into silence and lived in the assumption of his wish fulfilled. The results were extraordinary. Within 6 months, his entire financial reality transformed. But notice something crucial. He didn't announce his intentions to withdraw. He didn't make declarations about cutting contacts. He simply did it in silence, with the same naturalness with which you would close a door to keep out the cold. Now let me share with you what I call the 3 chambers of silence. The first chamber is physical silence, the cessation of speaking about your desires. The second chamber is mental silence, the quieting of internal chatter and doubt. The third chamber, and most profound, is spiritual silence, the complete surrender to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Many of you enter the first chamber easily enough. You can stop talking about your desires. Some of you even master the second chamber, controlling your thoughts. But it's the third where the real power lies, and this chamber can only be entered when you cut the ties that bind you to your old state. Think of Lot's wife in Scripture. She was told not to look back at the city she was leaving. This is not a story about physical geography. It's about consciousness. When you're moving into a new state of being, you cannot keep looking back at the old state or maintaining connections with those who are not old state. Let me tell you about the law of state resonance. Everything and everyone in your life is a reflection of the state you occupy. When you try to enter a new state while maintaining connections with those who resonate with your old state, You create a psychological conflict that prevents your complete transformation. I recall a gentleman in Los Angeles who desired to become a renowned author. He had talent, he had ideas, but he remained stuck in obscurity. Why? Because he kept himself surrounded by people who knew him as a struggling writer. Their very presence in his life kept him anchored to that state of struggle. One day, after hearing these principles, he did something that seemed drastic to others, but was perfectly natural to him. He cut all contacts with his writing group, stopped attending literary gatherings where people complained about how hard it was to get published, and went into complete silence about his work. Instead of discussing his book with others, he lived in the silence of his completed wish. He would walk into bookstores and quietly see his book on the shelves. He would silently feel the weight of his published work in his hands. He stopped seeking validation, stopped asking for opinions, and most importantly, stopped connecting with those who knew him as anything less than a successful author. Here's what you must understand about the power of cutting contacts. It's not about avoiding people. It's about avoiding states. Every person in your life represents a state of consciousness. When you maintain connections with those who know you in your old state, you're making it infinitely harder to fully occupy your new state. Consider the biblical instruction, "Come out from among them and be ye separate." This is not about physical separation, but about separating yourself from states that contradict your desire. When you truly understand this, you'll see why maintaining certain contacts keeps you bound to states you're trying to leave. Let me introduce you to what I call the principle of state solidarity. This principle states that your consciousness naturally seeks alignment with the predominant consciousness of those around you. This is why being around people who knew you in your old state makes it challenging to maintain your new assumption. Think of it like tuning a radio. You're trying to tune into the frequency of your desire, but the old contacts in your life keep pulling the dial back to the old frequency. The solution is not to fight against this pulling. The solution is to remove yourself from the range of the old frequency entirely. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't it selfish to cut contacts with people? Let me tell you something profound. You're not cutting contact with people. You're cutting contact with states. When you successfully establish yourself in your new state, you'll find that some of these people will either transform with you or naturally fall away. Let me share with you what I call the law of silent transformation. When a caterpillar enters its cocoon, it doesn't announce its transformation. It doesn't seek approval from other caterpillars. It doesn't maintain connections with its caterpillar life. In perfect silence, in complete isolation, it undergoes its magnificent transformation. This is your pattern. When you're transforming into a new state of consciousness, you must enter your own psychological cocoon. This is why silence and cutting contacts are not just helpful suggestions. They are spiritual imperatives. I remember a woman in my New York lectures who desired marriage. She had been dating for years, constantly discussing her relationships with friends, always seeking advice, always maintaining connections with people who knew her as the single friend. She was constantly in what I call the state of seeking. After learning these principles, she did something revolutionary. She cut all contacts with her dating circles, stopped discussing relationships entirely, and withdrew from the constant social commentary about her love life. Instead, she went into complete silence and lived in the assumption of being happily married. Her friends thought she had become antisocial. Some even criticized her for withdrawing, but she understood something they didn't. She couldn't become the woman she desired to be while maintaining connections that kept her in the state of seeking. Here's what you must understand about the power of silence. It's not merely the absence of noise, it's the presence of power. When you go into silence about your desires, when you cut contacts with those who know you as you were, you are creating a vacuum in consciousness. And nature abhors a vacuum? Let me introduce you to the 4 stages of silent creation. The first stage is recognition, recognizing that your current contacts and conversations are keeping you bound to your old state. The second stage is withdrawal, quietly removing yourself from environments and relationships that reinforce the old state. The third stage is silence, maintaining complete silence about your transformation. The fourth stage is emergence, naturally revealing your new state once it's fully embodied. Most people fail because they try to skip stages. They recognize the need for change but maintain all their old contacts. They try to withdraw but keep announcing their withdrawal. They attempt silence but keep checking if it's working. Remember, a seed doesn't grow faster because you keep checking on it. Consider Joseph in Scripture. When he received his dream of greatness, did he maintain connections with those who knew him as a slave? No. He was separated from all his old contacts, placed in what appeared to be adverse circumstances. But these very circumstances were preparing him for his transformation. This brings us to what I call the principle of sacred separation. Just as a pregnant woman carries her unborn child in the silence and privacy of her psalm, you must carry your desire in the silence and privacy of your consciousness. Every time you discuss it, every time you maintain contact with those who doubt it, you're exposing your unborn desire to harmful elements. Let me tell you about a businessman who came to me in desperate circumstances. His company was failing, and he had been constantly discussing his problems with everyone who would listen. His entire network consisted of people who knew him as the owner of a struggling business. I shared with him these principles, and he understood them at a deep level. He stopped attending business networking events where people discussed market difficulties. He cut contacts with his commiseration circle, those friends who gathered to share business troubles. He went into complete silence about his company status. Instead of seeking advice, he sought silence. Instead of maintaining connections that reinforced failure, he insulated his consciousness in the assumption of success. To the outside world, he seemed to have become a recluse. But in the silence of his consciousness, a transformation was taking place. What happened next illustrates perfectly what I call the law of silent attraction. Within 3 months, his business began attracting opportunities that had been there all along, but were invisible to him while he was in the state of struggle and constant discussion. You see, when you're constantly talking about your problems, constantly maintaining contacts with those who reinforce your limitations, you're blind to the opportunities surrounding you. Let me share with you the deeper metaphysical reason why silence and cutting contacts are so crucial. In Scripture, we read, "In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength." This is not merely poetic language, it's a precise description of the law of consciousness. When you maintain silence and cut contacts with the old state, you're doing something profound. You're creating what I call a consciousness vacuum. Nature must fill this vacuum, but it can only fill it with whatever corresponds to your assumed state. Consider this principle. Every person in your life is a mirror reflecting back to you your state of consciousness. When you maintain contacts with those who knew you in your old state, you're constantly being reminded of who you were, not who you desire to be. This is why cutting contacts is not an act of rejection, but an act of spiritual wisdom. I remember a teacher who came to me. She had been trying to manifest a position at a prestigious university, but she kept herself surrounded by colleagues who knew her as a struggling substitute teacher. Every conversation, every interaction, every relationship reinforced her current state. She understood these principles and did something that seemed radical to others. She quietly withdrew from her regular social circles. She stopped attending teachers' gatherings where the conversation centered around limited opportunities. She cut contacts with those who consistently reminded her of her current circumstances. Instead, she went into what I call the silence of assumption. In this silence, free from the constant reinforcement of her old state, she lived completely in the assumption of being a distinguished professor. She didn't tell anyone about this inner transformation. She didn't seek validation. She simply lived in the silence of her fulfilled desire. Here's what you must understand about the power of sacred isolation. When you isolate yourself from influences that contradict your desired state, you're not being antisocial, you're being spiritually wise. Just as a scientist must create a controlled environment for certain experiments, you must create a controlled environment in consciousness for your transformation. Let me introduce you to what I call the 7 seals of silence. The first seal is physical withdrawal, removing yourself from environments that reinforce the old state. The second seal is social disconnection, cutting contacts with those who know you only as you were. The third seal is conversational silence, refusing to discuss your transformation or desire. The fourth seal is mental quietude, silencing the internal dialogue about your past state. The fifth seal is emotional stillness, maintaining calm confidence in your assumption. The sixth seal is spiritual insulation, protecting your consciousness from doubt and disbelief. The seventh seal is complete absorption, living entirely in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Each of these seals must be maintained if you wish to complete your transformation. Breaking even one seal can allow the old state to seep back into your consciousness. Consider the biblical story of the three wise men. After they saw the Christ child, they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod. This is a psychological truth. Once you've conceived your new state, seeing the Christ child, you must not return to the old state, Herod. You must take another way home. Now let me share with you what I call the ultimate law of silent achievement. When you understand this law, you'll never again question the power of silence and selective contact. Every great achievement in history, every significant transformation has followed this pattern of silence and sacred isolation. Think of Jesus going into the wilderness for 40 days. Think of Buddha leaving his palace and social circles. Think of every great inventor, artist, or visionary who withdrew from society to birth their creation. This is not coincidence, it's law. Let me tell you about my own experience with this principle. When I first discovered these truths, I didn't announce them to the world. I went into silence. I cut contacts with those who knew me as the old man. In that silence, in that sacred isolation, I experienced what I call the great knowing. Here's what you must do starting tonight. First, make a solemn covenant with yourself. A covenant of silence. No more discussing your desires, your plans, your transformations with anyone. Second, begin what I call the great withdrawal, systematically cutting contacts with those who hold you in your old state. But remember, this is not about physical isolation, it's about state isolation. You're not rejecting people, you're rejecting states of consciousness that no longer serve your transformation. I'll share with you the 5 commands of silent power. Thou shalt not speak of thy desire to anyone. Thou shalt cut all contacts that anchor thee to the old state. Thou shalt live completely in the silence of thy wish fulfilled. Thou shalt not return to check on thy progress. Thou shalt maintain thy silence until thy manifestation is complete. These commands are not suggestions, they are spiritual laws that must be obeyed if you wish to transform your reality. Consider this final principle I call the law of silent emergence. Just as a butterfly emerges from its cocoon, only when its transformation is complete, you should only re-emerge into the world when your new state is fully embodied. Let me tell you about the 3 signs of complete transformation. First, when your new state feels more natural than your old state. Second, when maintaining silence requires no effort. Third, when your old contacts naturally fall away or transform to match your new state. Remember, my dear friends, that silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of power. Cutting contacts is not the absence of relationship. It's the presence of spiritual wisdom. As we conclude tonight's talk, I want to leave you with this final truth. Your world is your consciousness pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every condition in your life is there because of the state you occupy. When you change your state in silence, when you cut contacts with the old state, you automatically change your world. Go forth now and in doubt, not in fear, but in the absolute knowing that as you maintain your silence, as you cut contacts with the old state, your transformation must manifest. It's law. Remember these words from Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. This stillness, this silence, this sacred isolation, this is your path to transformation. And now, my dear wonderful friends, as we close this evening, take with you this solemn truth: your silence is your power. Your withdrawal from the old state is your pathway to the new. Maintain this silence, maintain this sacred isolation, and watch as your world transforms to match your silent assumption. For in the end, it is not in the noise of the world, but in the silence of your consciousness that all things are created. It is not in maintaining old contacts, but in sacred isolation that transformation occurs. Go now in silence and confidence in the absolute knowing that what you desire is already yours. For in consciousness, all things are possible to him who believes and maintains the silence of that belief. Good night and God bless you all. Let us understand what a coming back truly is. It is not merely a return to a former state of glory or success. No, my dear friends, a true comeback is a complete rebirth, a total transformation of your being. It is the realization of your divine nature, the awakening to the God within you that has been sleeping, waiting for this very moment to arise and claim its rightful place in your consciousness. You see, the world you perceive around you is nothing but a reflection of your own consciousness. Every circumstance, every person, every event in your life is but an outpicturing of your inner state. And it is this fundamental truth that holds the key to your greatest comeback. Many of you sit here today, perhaps feeling defeated, worn down by life's challenges, or simply yearning for something more. You may look at your current circumstances and wonder, how can I possibly make a comeback from this? But I tell you now, with absolutely, that the power to transform your life lies within you at this very moment. The secret, my friends, is this: you must first make your comeback in your imagination. For your imagination is not some fanciful toy of the mind, but the very workshop of God. It is the creative power of the universe, given to you to shape and mold your reality as you see fit. Consider for a moment the life you truly desire. See it clearly in your mind's eye. Feel the emotions associated with living that life. Experience the joy, the fulfillment, the sense of purpose that comes with it. This is not mere daydreaming or wishful thinking. This is the first step in making your greatest comeback a reality. For you see, when you imagine yourself in the state of your desired comeback, you are actually experiencing that reality in a dimension beyond time and space. In that realm, your comeback has already happened. You have already triumphed. You have already become the person you aspire to be. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, how can simply imagining something make it real? And to that I say, everything in this world was once imagined before it became manifest. The clothes you wear, the chair you sit on, the very building we're in, all of these were first conceived in someone's imagination before they took physical form. Your life is no different. It is a product of your imagination, whether you have been conscious of it or not. Every experience you've had, every circumstance you find yourself in, is the result of the states you have occupied in your imagination. So if you want to make your biggest comeback, you must first experience it fully in your imagination. You must live from the end, as if your comeback has already occurred. This is the art of revision, of rewriting your story not as it appears to be, but as you wish it to be. Let me share with you a simple technique to aid you in this process. Tonight, as you lay your head upon your pillow, close your eyes and imagine a scene that would imply your comeback is complete. Perhaps it's a conversation with a friend congratulating you on your success. Maybe it's the feeling of standing on a stage, receiving an award for your achievements. Or it could be as simple as looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing the confident, fulfilled person you've become. Whatever scene you choose, make it as vivid and real as possible. Engage all your senses. Feel the emotions associated with this achievement. And most importantly, have the sense of naturalness about it, as if this is simply who you are and how your life is. As you fall asleep in this state, you are impressing this new reality upon your subconscious mind. And your subconscious, my friends, is the hidden operator that shapes your outer world. It knows no limitations, no obstacles. It will work tirelessly to bring about the conditions necessary for your imagined state to become your physical reality. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but what about action? Don't we need to do something to make our comeback a reality? And to that I say, of course, action is part of the process. But it is inspired action, action that flows naturally from your new state of consciousness. You see, when you truly live from the end in your imagination, when you fully embody the state of your desired comeback, your actions will automatically align with that reality. You will find yourself naturally doing the things that someone in that state would do. Opportunities will present themselves, and you will be inspired to take advantage of them. This is the true meaning of the biblical phrase, faith without works is dead. Your faith, which is nothing more than your persistent imagination of the desired state, will inevitably lead to works. But these works are not the cause of your comeback. They are the effect. Let me illustrate this with a story. There was once a man who had lost everything: his business, his savings, his reputation. He was, by all outward appearances, a failure. But this man understood the power of imagination. Every night he would fall asleep imagining himself as a successful businessman once again. He would feel the satisfaction of running a thriving company, the joy of providing for his family, the pride of having rebuilt his reputation. At first, nothing seemed to change in his outer world, but he persisted in his imaginal act, night after night. Then one day he had an idea for a new business venture. It seemed to come out of nowhere, but in reality, it was the natural outgrowth of his new state of consciousness. He pursued this idea with enthusiasm, and within a year, he had not only regained his former success, but had far surpassed it. This, my friends, is the pattern of all great comebacks. They begin in the imagination, take root in the subconscious, and then bloom in the outer world. Your job is not to figure out how your comeback will happen, but to live so completely in the end result that it has no choice but to manifest. Now let us delve deeper into the nature of your being, for this is crucial to understanding how you come to make your biggest comeback. You are not merely a physical body, limited by time and space. You are a divine being, a spark of the infinite consciousness that creates and sustains all of existence. Your true self is not bound by your past experiences or your current circumstances. It exists in a state of pure potential, capable of expressing itself in infinite ways. When you grasp this truth, truly grasp it, you will understand that there are no limits to the comeback you can make. Think about it. If you are in essence the very power that creates worlds, what comeback could possibly be beyond your reach? The only limits that exist are those you have accepted in your own mind. And what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So I ask you now, what is the grandest vision you have for your comeback? What is the most magnificent expression of your potential that you can imagine? Allow yourself to dream big, for the universe knows no distinction between small dreams and large ones. To the infinite, all things are equally possible. Perhaps your comeback involves becoming a leader in your field, revolutionizing an industry, or creating a work of art that touches millions of lives. Maybe it's about healing a relationship that seemed beyond repair, or finding a level of inner peace and fulfillment never think. Whatever it is, know that it is within your power to achieve it. But remember, the key is not just to think about your comeback, or to wish for it, but to experience it fully in your imagination. You must feel the reality of it with every fiber of your being. You must walk, talk, and breathe as the person who has already made this comeback. This may seem challenging at first, especially if your current circumstances seem far removed from your desired state. But I assure you, with practice, it will become second nature. And as you persist in this practice, you will begin to see your outer world shift to match your inner experience. Now, let me address a concern that often arises when discussing this principle. Some of you may be wondering, what about other people? Don't they have a say in my comeback? And to that I say, the people and circumstances in your life are not separate from you. They are reflections of your consciousness, playing the parts you have assigned to them in the drama of your life. As you change your concept of yourself, as you live from the state of your completed comeback, you will find that others naturally adjust to support your new reality. Those who cannot align with your new state will fade from your experience, while new individuals who resonate with your achieved comeback will enter your life. This is not manipulation or control of others. It is simply the law of your own being. You are the author of your life story, and as you rewrite that story in your imagination, the characters and settings will naturally adapt to fit the new narrative. Consider the example of a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. As the caterpillar undergoes its metamorphosis, its entire world changes. It no longer relates to its environment in the same way. Its food, its habitat, its very way of being shifts dramatically. Yet this transformation doesn't require the caterpillar to manipulate its surroundings. The change happens from within, and the outer world naturally conforms to support the new state of being. Your comeback is no different. As you transform internally, embodying the state of your achieved comeback, your world will rearrange itself to support this new you. This is the true meaning of the phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher appears when you are ready. When you have fully assumed the state of your comeback, in your imagination, all that you need to support that state will appear in your life. Now let's address another vital aspect of making your biggest comeback, the role of persistence. You see, the power of your imagination is absolute, but the manifestation of your imagined state in the physical still world often requires time. The seed you plant in your subconscious mind through your imaginal acts needs time to germinate and grow. During this period, it may seem as though nothing is happening. Your outer world may appear unchanged, or you may even face challenges that seem to contradict your desired outcome. This is the time when many people give up. concluding that their imaginal work didn't work, but I tell you now, this is precisely the time when you must persist most fervently in your imaginal acts. Remember, your senses show you the world as it is, not as it will be. They reflect the harvest of seeds planted in the past. Your imagination, on the other hand, is planting new seeds for future harvests. You must have the faith to water these seeds with your continued attention and belief, even when there is no physical evidence of growth. Think of it like this. If you were to plant a seed in your garden, you wouldn't dig it up every day to see if it's growing, would you? No, you would plant the seed, water it regularly, and trust in the natural process of growth. Your imaginal act is the seed. Your persistence in living from the end is the water and sunlight. And your faith is the fertile soil in which this seed will grow. So how do you maintain this persistence? How do you continue to live from the end when your senses scream that nothing has changed? The key is to fall in love with your imagined state. Make it so real, so vivid, so delightful that you prefer it to your current reality. Immerse yourself in it so completely that you almost forget your former state. This is not about escaping reality or deluding yourself. It's about understanding that your imagination is the most real, most causative dimension of your being. It is the dimension where all change begins. By living there, by making your home in the state of your completed comeback, you set in motion the forces that will bring it into the physical manifestation. Let me share with you another technique to aid in this persistence. Throughout your day, whenever you have a quiet moment, ask yourself this question: how would I feel right now if my comeback were complete then? Allow yourself to feel those emotions fully. Feel the confidence, the joy, the sense of accomplishment. Let these feelings permeate your entire being. This practice serves two purposes. First, it keeps you aligned with the state of your desired comeback throughout your day, not just during your dedicated imaginal sessions. Second, it trains your mind to focus on the feeling of the wish fulfilled, rather than the absence of what you desire. Remember, what you focus on expands. By consistently focusing on the feeling of your achieved comeback, you amplify its reality in your consciousness. Now, let's address a common pitfall that many encounter on the path to their comeback: the temptation to share their vision prematurely. In your excitement about your imagined state, you may feel compelled to tell others about your plans for a comeback. I caution you against this. You see, your imaginal act is a sacred thing. It is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Exposing this tender seedling to the harsh light of others' opinions and doubts can wither it before it has a chance to take root. Moreover, speaking about your comeback as a future event reinforces its status as something you lack, rather than something you have already achieved in your imagination. Instead, I encourage you to nurture your vision in the quiet of your own consciousness. Let it grow strong and vital within you. When others begin to see the fruits of your comeback manifesting in your life, they will ask you about it. And then, if you choose, you can share your story as a testament to the power of imagination. This principle of silence is beautifully illustrated in the biblical story of Mary, the mother of Jesus after the Annunciation, when she was told she would bear the Son of God. The scripture says, "But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart." She didn't rush to tell everyone about the miraculous event that was to come. She held it within, allowing it to gestate both physically and spiritually. Your comeback is your own personal annunciation. It is the divine speaking to you, revealing the greatness that you are capable of manifesting. Honor it with your silence, nurture it with your unwavering belief, and watch as it comes to fruition in ways that will astonish you. As we continue our exploration of making your biggest comeback, let us turn our attention to another crucial aspect: the release of your past. Many of you may be carrying the weight of past failures, disappointments, or traumas. These experiences can seem like insurmountable obstacles to your comeback, but I tell you now, they are only obstacles if you allow them to be. You see, your past has no power over you except the power you give it through your attention and belief. The events of your past are not fixed, immutable facts. They are simply states you once occupied in consciousness, and just as you entered those states, you have the power to leave them behind. This is where the art of revision comes into play. Revision is not about denying what happened, but about reinterpreting it in a way that serves your desired state. It's about extracting the gift, the lesson, the growth opportunity from every experience, no matter how painful it might have been. Let me give you a practical exercise in revision. Tonight, before you sleep, review the events of your day. But instead of simply recalling what happened, reimagine them as you would have liked them to be. If you had a disagreement with someone, reimagine it as a harmonious interaction. If you faced a challenge at work, Reimagine yourself handling it with ease and confidence. As you do this, you're not changing the past in a literal sense. What you're doing is far more powerful. You're changing your relationship to the past. You're rewriting the story in your subconscious mind, creating new patterns of thought and behavior that will shape your future experiences. This practice of revision can be extended to any event in your past that you feel is holding you back from your comeback. Perhaps there was a business venture that failed, a relationship that ended painfully, or a missed opportunity that you've been regretting. Take each of these experiences and revise them in your imagination. See them playing out in a way that supports your comeback. For instance, if you had a business failure in the past, reimagine it as a valuable learning experience that prepared you for your current success. If a relationship ended, see it as clearing the way for a more fulfilling partnership. If you missed an opportunity, imagine that an even better opportunity arose as a result. As you practice this revision, you'll find that your past loses its grip on you. It no longer defines you or limits you. Instead, it becomes a rich tapestry of experiences, all contributing to your growth and ultimate comeback. Remember, time is a construct of consciousness. In the realm of imagination, which is your true home, all times exist simultaneously. This means that your past, present, and future are all accessible and changeable from the eternal now of your consciousness. By revising your past, you are literally creating a new platform from which to launch your comeback. Now let's delve into another powerful concept that will aid you in making your biggest comeback, the law of assumption. This law states that if you assume a certain state to be true and persist in that assumption, it must harden into fact in your ficting or physical reality. This means that to make your comeback, you must assume the state of having already made that comeback. You must think from it, not of it. There's a crucial difference here. Thinking of your comeback places it in the future, always just out of reach. Thinking from your comeback means embodying it fully in the present moment. How do you do this? Begin by asking yourself, if I had already made my biggest comeback, how would I think? How would I feel? How would I carry myself? What would my daily routines look like? Then, start living as if these things were already true. If your comeback involves becoming a successful entrepreneur, start setting your alarm as if you had important meetings to attend. Dress as if you were already leading a thriving company. Speak with the confidence of someone who has already achieved great success. If your comeback is about regaining your health and vitality, start eating and moving as if you were already in peak physical condition. Go to bed early as if you valued your rest. Look in the mirror and see the vibrant, healthy person you are becoming. This might feel like pretending at first, and in a sense it is. But remember, all of physical reality began as a pretense in someone's imagination. Your current circumstances, which seem so solid and real, were once just a state assumed in consciousness. As you persist in assuming your new state, you will begin to notice subtle shifts in your outer world. People may start treating you differently. Opportunities that align with your assumed state will begin to appear. You'll find yourself naturally taking actions that support your comeback. This is the bridge of incidents, a series of events that leads from your current state to your desired state. You don't need to plan this bridge or figure out how it will be built. Your only job is to stay faithful to your assumed state, and the bridge will form beneath your feet as you walk. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but Neville, what if I assume this state and nothing happens? What if I fail to this? I say failure is impossible if you persist in your assumption. What appears as failure is simply a moment in time, a point on the bridge of incidents. It's not the end of the story unless you decide it is. Remember, the only place where your comeback can be aborted is in your own imagination. As long as you hold true to your assumed state, as long as you continue to live from the end, your comeback is inevitable. It must come to pass, for that is the law of your being. Let me share a story to illustrate this point. There was once a man who dreamed of becoming a great actor. He assumed the state of being a celebrated performer, living from it day and night in his imagination. He went to auditions, confident in his assumed state, but faced rejection after rejection. Many would have given up at this point, concluding that their imaginal act had failed. But this man persisted. He continued to live from the state of being a successful actor, even as he worked menial jobs to support himself. He treated each rejection as merely a scene in the movie of his life, knowing that the grand finale would be his ultimate success. And indeed, after years of persistence, he got his big break. Today, he is one of the most recognized and respected actors in the world. This man's story is a testament to the power of persistent assumption. He did not allow temporary setbacks to dislodge him from his assumed state. He knew that his outer world had to conform to his inner conviction eventually. And so it did. Your comeback story can be just as powerful, just as inspiring. But it requires the same level of persistence, the same unshakable faith in your assumed state. No matter what your senses tell you, no matter what challenges you face, you must continue to live from the state of your completed comeback. This persistence is not about gritting your teeth and pushing through difficulty. It's about so falling in love with your assumed state that you cannot bear to leave it. It's about making your imagined reality so vivid, so real, so delightful that it eclipses your current circumstances. As you continue on this journey of making your biggest comeback, I want to address something that many of you may be experiencing, the feeling of impatience. You may find yourself constantly looking for signs that your comeback is manifesting, anxiously waiting for your outer world to catch up with your crowd. This impatience, my dear friends, is one of the greatest obstacles to the realization of your desires. You see, impatience implies lack. When you are impatient for your comeback to manifest, you are affirming that you do not have it now. This puts you in a state of wanting rather than a state of having. And the universe, which knows only how to match your inner state, will continue to give you more of that wanting. The key is to cultivate a sense of calm assurance. Know that your comeback is already complete in the realm of imagination, which is the only true reality. Your three-dimensional world is merely catching up to what is already finished in consciousness. Think of it like this: when you plant a seed in the ground, you stand over it day after day, impatiently waiting for it to sprout. No, you plant the seed and then go about your life, trusting in the natural process of growth. You don't doubt that the seed will grow just because you can't see what's happening beneath the soil. Your imaginal act is like that seed. Once you have planted it in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind, through your assumption of the state of your completed comeback, your work is done. Now you must allow it the time and space to germinate and grow. This doesn't mean you become passive. Rather, you continue to live from your assumed state, taking inspired action when it presents itself, but without anxiety or impatience. You move through your days with the calm confidence of someone who knows their good is already secured. To help you cultivate this attitude, I offer you this simple practice. Whenever you find yourself feeling impatient or anxious about your comeback, pause and take a deep breath. Then say to yourself, my comeback is already complete. I am experiencing it now in my imagination. And I know that my outer world must conform to this inner reality. I relax and allow this process to unfold in its perfect timing. By affirming this truth and releasing your attachment to when and how your comeback will manifest, you open yourself to receive it. You create a state of receptivity in your consciousness, allowing your good to flow to you unimpeded by doubt or impatience. Now let us explore another vital aspect of making your biggest comeback: the release of limiting beliefs. Each of you carries within you a set of beliefs about yourself and the world. These beliefs, whether you're conscious of them or not, shape your experiences and determine the extent of your comeback. Many of these beliefs were formed in childhood or through past experiences, and they may no longer serve you. Beliefs like "I'm not good enough," "success is hard," or "I always fail in the end" can act as invisible barriers to your comeback. The good news is that beliefs are not fact. They are simply thoughts that you have thought so often that they have become habitual. And just as you form these beliefs, you have the power to change them. The first step in changing a limiting belief is to become aware of it. Pay attention to your self-talk, to the thoughts that run through your mind when you think about your comeback. When you notice a thought that doesn't align with your desired state, pause and question it. Is it really true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? How does believing this thought make you feel? Who would you be without this thought? Once you've identified a limiting belief, you can begin to replace it with empowering belief that supports your comeback. For instance, if you've been holding the belief "I'm not good enough," you might replace it with "I am more than enough. And I have all the resources within me to make my biggest comeback." Remember, your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. By consistently thinking and feeling from your new belief, you impress it upon your subconscious, and it begins to manifest in your outer world. This process of changing beliefs is not always easy. You may encounter resistance from your old patterns of thinking. But persist, my friends. Every time you choose your new belief over the old one, you weaken the old neural pathway and strengthen the new one. Over time, your new empowering belief will become as natural and automatic as the old one once was. As you work on releasing limiting beliefs, you may find that certain people or situations in your life seem to challenge your new state. Perhaps family members or friends express doubt about your ability to make a comeback. Or maybe circumstances arise that appear to contradict your assumed state. In these moments, remember this fundamental truth. Everyone and everything in your world is you pushed out. The doubts expressed by others are merely reflections of your own doubts. The challenging circumstances are opportunities for you to strengthen your faith in your assumed state. Instead of reacting to these seeming obstacles, use them as opportunities to deepen your commitment to your new state. When someone expresses doubt, silently reaffirm your belief in your comeback. When a challenging situation arises, ask yourself, how would I handle this if my comeback were already complete? Then act from that state. By doing this, you are not only reinforcing your new state in your own consciousness, but you are also transforming the consciousness of those around you. Remember, as you change, your entire world must change to match your new vibration. Now, let us delve into the power of gratitude in manifesting your biggest comeback. Gratitude is not just a pleasant emotion. It is a powerful creative force. When you are grateful, you are affirming that you already have what you desire. This aligns you with the frequency of your completed comeback, drawing it into your physical experience. Begin and end each day with gratitude for your comeback as if it has already happened. Feel the joy, the relief, the sense of accomplishment. Give thanks for the specific aspects of your comeback, the success, the relationships, the experiences it brings. Make this gratitude so real that you can feel it in every cell of your body. As you do this, you may notice that you begin to feel grateful for your current circumstances, even if they seem far from your desired state. This is a powerful shift. By finding things to appreciate in your present situation, you raise your vibration and become more receptive to the good that is coming to you. Remember, the universe doesn't distinguish between gratitude for what you have and gratitude for what you desire. It responds to the feeling of gratitude itself. So by cultivating an attitude of gratitude, you create a powerful, attractive force that accelerates the manifestation of your comeback. As we near the conclusion of our discussion on making your biggest comeback, I want to address a question that may be arising in some of your minds. What if I've tried all this before and it didn't work, my dear friends? If you find yourself thinking this, I want you to consider something profound. The very fact that you're here listening to these words, contemplating the possibility of your comeback, is evidence that your desire for transformation is alive within you. This desire is not your own. It is the universe, God, the divine, whatever name you choose to give it, seeking to express itself through you in a new and expanded way. Your desire for a comeback is a promise of its fulfillment, for you would not have the desire if you did not also have the capacity to achieve it. The presence of the desire is proof of the presence of the capacity to fulfill it. So if you've tried before and didn't see the results you wanted, know this: you have not failed. You have simply been preparing. Every attempt, every setback, every moment of doubt has been shaping you, refining you, making you ready for this moment now. Perhaps in the past, you didn't fully understand the power of your imagination. Perhaps you didn't persist in your assumption long enough. Or perhaps the timing wasn't right, and the universe was arranging circumstances in your favor behind the scenes. Whatever the case, know that all of your past experiences have led you to this moment, where you are now ready to make your biggest comeback. As we come to the end of this talk, I want to leave you with this final thought. Your comeback is not just about you. Yes, it will transform your life in magnificent ways, but more than that, it will impact countless others. As you step into your greatness, as you allow the God within you to express itself fully, you become an inspiration to others. Your comeback becomes a beacon of hope, showing others what is possible when one fully embraces the power of their imagination. So, my dear friends, I challenge you now. Go forth and make your biggest comeback. Live from the state of its completion. Feel it, believe it, become it in your imagination. Persist in this assumption, no matter what your senses may tell you. Release the old, embrace the new, and watch as your world transforms before your eyes. Remember, you are not merely making a comeback. You are awakening to the truth of who you really are. A divine being, one with the creative power of the universe. Your comeback is your birthright. Claim it now in your imagination, and it must become your reality. Thank you, and may your biggest comeback be even greater than you can imagine. Let me tell you a profound truth that will change your life forever. The power that you seek, the power to manifest even the impossible, lies dormant within you at this very moment. You are that power. You are the operant power. You are God in the most profound sense, temporarily occupying a garment of flesh. I say to you now, for just 1 minute, one single minute of your time, you can set in motion forces so magnificent that they will reshape your entire world. For consciousness is the only reality. And in that 1 minute of focused consciousness, you can plant a seed that must by divine law come to harvest. Tonight I share with you not theory, but law, immutable, unchangeable law. The law states that your consciousness, your feeling, your assumption is the only reality. What you feel as true, what you accept as real in that 1 minute of focused attention becomes the blueprint that the whole vast world must follow. Consider this. When you go to sleep tonight, enter into that 1 minute with complete surrender to your desire fulfilled. Feel it as real. Feel it as present. Feel it as now. For the feeling is the secret. And that 1 minute of reality of your desire is more powerful than 1,000 minutes of yearning or wanting. Let me share with you what I mean. Suppose you desire wealth beyond measure. In that 1 minute, you must feel the weight of that wealth, the satisfaction of that abundance, the joy of that prosperity as if it were already yours. You must enter into the state of the wish, fulfilled so completely that when you open your eyes, the outer world seems pale in comparison to what you have just experienced. The outer world, you see, is nothing more than a shadow, a reflection of past assumptions. But in that one sacred minute, you have the power to change every assumption, to rewrite every belief, to transform every aspect of your life. The whole vast world will reshape itself to match your new assumption, for this is law. I tell you, time is nothing to your subconscious mind. What you impress upon it in that 1 minute of focused feeling will work day and night to externalize itself in your world. This is why Scripture tells us, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we shall all be changed. That moment is the moment of assumption. You need not concern yourself with the how. The how is not your part in this divine drama. Your role is simply to occupy the state of consciousness of the wish fulfilled for that 1 minute with such intensity, such conviction, that you can say with absolute certainty, it is done. I remember a lady who came to me in dire circumstances. She had not a penny to her name, and creditors were at her door. I told her to take 1 minute, just 1 minute, before sleep and feel the joy, the relief, the absolute knowing of having more than enough. She did this faithfully, and within weeks, through channels she could never have imagined, abundance flowed into her life from every direction. You see, the outer world must conform to your inner assumptions. It has no choice in the matter. Just as the fruit must grow from the seed, your outer world must grow from the seed of your assumption. And that seed, planted in 1 minute of focused feeling, contains within it all that is necessary for its own fulfillment. Let me tell you something of profound importance. When you enter into that 1 minute of consciousness, you must do so with the knowledge that you are entering the most holy of holies. You are entering into the very source of creation itself. For your consciousness, your I am, is God Himself, and there is no other power to create or to destroy. Think of it this way. If you were to witness a miracle this very moment, what would you feel? How would your body respond? What thoughts would flow through your mind? That is exactly how you must feel in your 1 minute of focused consciousness. You must feel the naturalness, the reality, the absolute certainty of your desire fulfilled. The reason most people fail in their manifestations is that they treat their imaginal acts as something unreal, something separate from themselves. But I tell you now, your imaginal acts are more real than the world of Caesar, for they are the very substance from which all reality springs. In that 1 minute, you must abandon yourself completely to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If you desire perfect health, feel the freedom and vitality in every cell of your body. If you desire a specific position, feel the satisfaction and responsibility of that position. If you desire a particular relationship, feel the love and connection as if it were already yours. The secret lies in the intensity of your feeling, the completeness of your absorption in the state desired. For feeling is the secret. And in that 1 minute of focused feeling, you are literally molding the substance of the universe according to your desire. Remember the words of Scripture, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." This transformation takes place in consciousness first. And that 1 minute of transformation in consciousness will work its magic until the outer world reflects perfectly what you have impressed upon your subconscious mind. Do not make the mistake of thinking that 1 minute is too short a time to manifest the impossible. Time is only a concept of the outer world. In the realm of consciousness, in the realm of the subconscious mind, 1 minute of complete absorption in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is equal to an eternity. Let me tell you what most of humanity has forgotten. In your imagination, which is your own wonderful human consciousness, you can in 1 minute live an entire lifetime. You can compress time to such a degree that 1,000 years become as 1 day in your consciousness. This is the mystery that the ancient mystics knew. When I tell you to take 1 minute, I am speaking of a minute pregnant with infinite possibility. For in that minute, when properly used, you transcend all limitations of time and space. You enter into the eternal now where all things are possible and all realities exist simultaneously. Consider this: every moment of your life you are manifesting. Every single moment you are creating through your assumptions. But most of these moments are spent unconsciously accepting the limitations of your current reality. What I am giving you now is the secret of conscious creation, deliberate manifestation through that one focused minute. Let me share with you an absolute principle. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation. Not the wish, not the want, not the desire, but the feeling of already having what you desire. In that 1 minute, you must generate this feeling with such intensity that it crowds out all other thoughts and feelings. When you close your eyes tonight, when you enter into that 1 minute of focused consciousness, you must feel with every fiber of your being that you are now the person you desire to be. You must feel the reality of it so intensely that when you open your eyes, the physical world seems like the dream. And what you have just experienced in imagination seems like the reality. I tell you, and I tell you with absolute certainty, that your three-dimensional world is nothing more than the outpicturing of your assumptions. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, in that 1 minute, you are literally rearranging the entire universe according to your assumption. What would you feel like if you were now the person you desire to be? What would you experience? How would your friends address you? What conversations would you have? These are not idle questions. They are the very substance of creation. For in that 1 minute, as you feel these things as real, you are creating them in the only place they can be created, in consciousness. Remember the words I share with you now. Your consciousness is God. Your I am is the creator of all that appears in your world. Therefore, when you enter into that 1 minute of focused feeling, you are entering into the very creative substance of the universe. You are entering into God himself. I have tested this law countless times, and I tell you now it never fails. A lady once came to me in tears, her child desperately ill. I told her to take 1 minute before sleep and feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude of seeing her child in perfect health. She did this faithfully, and within days her child made a recovery that the doctors could not explain. You see, the outer world has no choice but to conform to your inner assumptions. This is law. Just as an apple seed must produce an apple tree, your assumption must produce its physical equivalent. And in that 1 minute of focused feeling, you are planting the seed that must come to harvest. Let me tell you of the power that lies within that 1 minute. When you enter into it, you must do so with the knowledge that you are entering into the most sacred of activities. You are literally exercising your divine right as a created being. You are doing the work that you were created to do. Do not make the mistake of thinking that this is mere positive thinking or autosuggestion. What I am giving you is the very principle of creation itself. It is the same principle that created the stars and the planets, that maintains the order of the universe. It is the principle that Scripture refers to when it says, "Let there be light." In that 1 minute, you must let there be that which you desire to experience. You must feel it with such completion, such totality, that you can say with absolute conviction, it is finished. But when you can feel this, when you can experience this with your whole being, the thing is done. And all the forces of the universe move to bring about its physical manifestation. Think of it this way. Everything you now accept as real was once only imagined. Your current circumstances, your present relationships, your existing conditions, all were first imagined before they became fact. Therefore, in that 1 minute, you are engaging in the most natural and most powerful of all human activities, the act of conscious creation through imagination. I tell you now, with absolute authority, that if you understand and apply what I am sharing with you in this moment, nothing will be impossible for you. For the one who knows how to use that single minute of consciousness holds within their hands the key to all creation. Consider the words of Scripture before they call, I will answer. This is not some distant God responding to prayer. This is the law of consciousness in operation. When you enter that 1 minute with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you have already created it. The answer precedes the call, because in consciousness where all creation takes place, you have already received. Let me share with you a profound truth that few understand. In your imagination, there is no limitation of time or space. You can traverse 1,000,000 years in a single second of consciousness. You can experience the end before the beginning. This is why that 1 minute properly used can reshape your entire existence. When you lie down tonight, when you enter into that sacred minute of communion with your own wonderful human imagination, you must do so with the knowledge that you are entering the realm of cause. The three-dimensional world you see around you is merely effect. It must, by eternal law, conform to what you establish in consciousness. I tell you now, do not waste that minute wondering how your desire will be fulfilled. The how is not your concern. Your only responsibility is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled with such intensity, such conviction that you can feel the naturalness of it. Feel the solidity of it. Feel the reality of it. Imagine if you desire perfect health. In that 1 minute, you must feel the vitality coursing through your veins. Feel the strength in your limbs. Feel the perfect functioning of every organ, every cell. Feel the joy of moving with complete freedom and vigor. Feel the naturalness of perfect health so completely that you cannot remember what it felt like to be otherwise. If it is wealth you desire, in that 1 minute you must feel the abundance surrounding you. Feel the security of substantial wealth. Feel the freedom it brings. Feel the joy of helping others. Feel the naturalness of having more than enough. Feel it so completely that you cannot remember what lack feels like. You see, your subconscious mind knows no difference between what you imagine with feeling and what you experience in the outer world. To your subconscious mind, they are one and the same. Therefore, what you impress upon it in that focused minute of consciousness must externalize itself in your world. Let me tell you of a principle that never fails. The intensity of your feeling determines the speed of its manifestation. When you enter that 1 minute of focused consciousness, you must abandon yourself completely to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let no doubt enter. Let no contrary thought disturb your assumption. Remember this, your consciousness is the only reality. Everything you now consider real was first only imagined. The chair you sit on, the clothes you wear, the building you live in, all were first only imagined before they became fact. Therefore, what you imagine with feeling in that 1 minute is as real as anything you now consider real. I share with you now a secret of manifestation that few understand. When you enter that 1 minute of consciousness, you must do so from the end. Live in the end. Experience the completion, the fulfillment, the attainment of your desire. For when you experience the end in consciousness, all the steps necessary for its achievement must unfold naturally. Think of it this way. If you were to receive news right now that your desire had been fulfilled, what would you feel? How would your body respond? What thoughts would flow through your mind? That is exactly how you must feel in your 1 minute of focused consciousness. You must generate those exact feelings, those exact sensations. Do not make the mistake of thinking that this is merely daydreaming or fantasizing. What I am giving you is the very principle by which the universe operates. It is the principle of assumption. and it never fails. What you assume to be true, what you feel to be real in consciousness, must externalize itself in your world. Let me share with you a profound truth that will revolutionize your understanding of manifestation. In that 1 minute of focused consciousness, you are literally rearranging the entire universe. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you establish there must by eternal law manifest in your world. I tell you from my own experience, time after time, that this law is as exact as mathematics. Just as 2 plus 2 must equal 4, what you feel as real in consciousness must externalize itself in your world. This is not theory, this is law, and it operates with mathematical precision. When you enter into that 1 minute tonight, you must do so with the knowledge that you are entering into the very substance of creation. Your consciousness, your I am, is God Himself in operation. Therefore, whatever you accept as true in that state of consciousness has no choice but to externalize itself. Consider this: every moment of your life, you are manifesting. Every single thought accompanied by feeling is creating your future. But when you take that 1 minute and consciously direct it, when you deliberately assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are exercising your divine creative power at its highest level. Let me tell you of something remarkable about your imagination. In it, there is no such thing as impossibility. In that 1 minute of focused consciousness, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. The limitations of time, space, and circumstance do not exist in imagination. They are only beliefs we accept in our outer world. When you lie down tonight, when you enter into that sacred minute of communion with your own wonderful human imagination, you must feel with every fiber of your being that your desire is already fulfilled. Feel the joy of it. Feel the reality of it. Feel the naturalness of it. If you desire a particular position or achievement, in that 1 minute you must feel the satisfaction of already having achieved it. Feel the respect it brings. Feel the responsibility it carries. Feel the natural pride in your accomplishment. Feel it so completely that you cannot remember what it felt like to desire it. You see, the secret lies in the feeling. Feeling is the secret. It is not enough to merely visualize or think about your desire. You must feel it as real. You must generate the feeling that would be yours if your desire were already a fact in the outer world. Let me tell you something about the nature of consciousness that few understand. Your consciousness is not confined to your physical body. It extends throughout the universe. Therefore, when you assume a state in consciousness, you are literally rearranging the entire universe to match your assumption. I share with you now a principle that has transformed countless lives. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation. Not the wishing, not the hoping, not the wanting, but the feeling of already having what you desire. This is the secret that all the great ones of history have known. Remember this: your outer world is nothing more than your inner world objectified. Everything you now see and experience was first only imagined. Therefore, what you feel as real in that 1 minute of focused consciousness must by law become real in your outer world. Think of the power that lies within that 1 minute. In it, you can transcend all limitations. In it, you can rewrite your entire life story. In it, you can plant a seed that must, by divine law, come to harvest. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you establish there is more real than anything in the outer world. Do not let anyone tell you that this is mere positive thinking or wishful dreaming. What I am giving you is the very principle by which the universe operates. It is the same principle that keeps the stars in their courses, that maintains the order of creation. It is the principle of conscious assumption. Let me tell you the final and most crucial truth about this 1 minute that can transform your entire existence. When you feel the reality of desire so intensely that your whole being vibrates with its truth, you have planted a seed in the fertile soil of infinite possibility that must come to harvest. Do you know why most people fail in their manifestations? They treat their imaginal acts as something unreal, something separate from life itself. But I tell you now, your imaginal acts in that 1 minute are more real than the world you see around you, for they are the very substance from which all reality springs. Think of this, every invention, every discovery, every achievement in human history began in someone's imagination. Everything that now exists in your world was once only imagined. Therefore, what you imagine with feeling in that 1 minute has a divine right to manifest, for this is the way of creation itself. I tell you with absolute certainty that if you will faithfully apply this law, if you will enter into that 1 minute each night feeling the reality of your desire fulfilled, your whole world must reshape itself to match your assumption. This is not hope. This is law. Remember these final words I share with you now. You are not some tiny being struggling against the world. You are the operant power. You are the creator of your reality. That 1 minute of focused consciousness properly used contains within it the power to reshape universes. Tonight, when you enter into that 1 minute, do so with the knowledge that you are entering into the most holy of holies. Feel the reality of your desire with such intensity that when you open your eyes, the physical world seems pale in comparison to what you have just experienced. For in that 1 minute, properly used, even the impossible must yield to your assumption. The whole vast world will conspire to make your assumption a reality, for this is the eternal law of consciousness. What you feel as real in consciousness must externalize itself in your world. I leave you with this final truth. The power is within you. The kingdom is within you. That 1 minute of focused consciousness, used with understanding and feeling, is more powerful than 1,000 years of toil. For in that minute, you are exercising your divine right as a creative being. Go forth now with this knowledge. Apply this law. Test it. Prove it in the laboratory of your own life. For I tell you, with absolute authority, that even impossible will manifest for you when you understand the power of that 1 minute of focused consciousness. Let this be your practice from this moment forward. Enter that 1 minute with complete faith, with absolute conviction, with the feeling of your desire fulfilled. For when you do this, you are doing the work you were created to do. You are consciously creating your reality through the power of your own wonderful human imagination. Remember, the world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, in that 1 minute, you are literally rearranging the entire universe according to your assumption. There is no power outside of you that can withstand what you establish in consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality, and you are that consciousness. And now, knowing this truth, understanding this law, go forth and create the life you desire. For you hold within you, in that 1 minute of focused consciousness, the power to manifest even the impossible. This is the truth. This is the law. This is your divine inheritance. The end is where we begin. The completion is where we start. Therefore, enter into that 1 minute from the end, living in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. For when you do this, you are operating in accordance with the highest law of creation, and nothing can prevent your assumption from becoming your reality. So I say to you, finally, take this minute. Use it wisely. Fill it with the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and watch as the whole vast self reshapes itself to match what you have established in consciousness. For this is the way of creation. This is the law of assumption. And this is your power as a divine creative being.